Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Self-love through freedom and connection. So feel free to connect to The Brave Never Fall on these social media platforms. If you find anything of value in this following podcast, hit that like button, subscribe and share, and support the brave and bold tribe growing one purposeful soul at a time. How are you feeling? Take a moment to do a self-check-in for yourself. How are you feeling mentally? How are you feeling emotionally? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling spiritually? Are you feeling balanced? Are you still journeying on an intentional, purposeful path? How are you feeling? Balancing yourself is a healthy, daily practice that will reliably keep you in harmony with your entire mind, body, heart, and soul. Clear your mind. Take a moment of silence for yourself. Right now, in the moment. You are here now. How are you feeling? Bravery is facing the unknown with total fear, yet trusting that you will intentionally overcome that fear. And if you've ever been in a situation where you knew the difference between turning around and facing something you're trying to avoid, trying to run away from, trying to make excuses for, trying to procrastinate with, that feeling of actually turning around and facing your deepest fear, or facing something that is unknown to you and you don't know what the outcome is. That is a very powerful feeling when you are in the moment and that choice is made and you're going to stand in it and you know you're going to move forward with it no matter what happens. You gain something that you'll never lose from that. You may forget it from time to time, but we can always remind ourselves we have that. It was in us. We know it because we did it. That is a much greater feeling than not turning around and facing it and just continuing to run and stumble and fall and make excuses, procrastinate, get out of rhythm with our discipline, get out of rhythm with the balance that we have in our lives. There is no balance in being a coward. There is no balance in being someone who is afraid to take on the challenges of life and overcome them. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what skin color you are, what sex you are, how much money you make. A problem is a problem. A fear is a fear. And if it's there for a reason. It's in your life for a reason. It didn't show up by coincidence. There are no coincidences in life. And if that's the case, there's no coincidence that you have a choice to make in that moment. You can choose to face the fear. Take the risk of doing something uncomfortable. That choice will make you far stronger than running away. The unknown is a void, a powerful void, a void that we could get lost in. And when we surrender to the unknown, we find that there is hidden meaning in our lives. There is strength. There are things that we can find and explore and discover about ourselves that we never knew existed if we didn't try. But with every try and every attempt, there is a risk that could be taken for granted if it's not put in the proper perspective. The perspective of what choices do I have? What are the consequences of our choices? These things is what makes up the human mind, the human heart. The human mind is powerful. The human heart is emotional. When we combine these things, we gain strength. We find what it means to be human. We find that taking risks may not be as all bad as people make them out to be. A risk in the proper perspective can mean a whole lot of things. It can mean that we are doing something that is bad. And to some people, taking a risk is one of the most horrible things you can do in life. It makes you a bad person. You are doing something that is going against the grain. You are doing something that is going against the normal constructs of what a quote-unquote normal life should be for each person. But what if we could take a risk and look at it in the positive? What if that risk changed your life forever? What if that risk illuminated the void, made known of the unknown, answered the difficult questions with positive answers? We'll never get there if life continues to dictate what we do. If we continue to walk forward against resistance, going nowhere, without opening our eyes, illuminating the void, and seeing where we're heading, we will never get to the place we need to be in life. And it takes risks. It takes powerful risks to do that. Life. Episode 11, Risking It All in Life. We are human. We were born human. We will die human. What is a risk? And how can we define it for ourselves? Should we define it by what other people say a risk is in our life? So if someone looks at you and says, hey, why did you do that? And you say, well, I did it because it felt right. It felt natural. I felt like I was called to do that. I listened to my soul. I let my soul guide me on that decision. And then that person looks at you and says, but why did you do that? That was dangerous. That was potentially stupid. And you can look back at them and say, well, why do you think that? Is it because you assumed that the outcome would be different if you were in my shoes? Risk is not something that you can just throw on someone and say, hey, blanket statement. Risk equals dangerous. Risk equals bad. And people every day, every single day, we take risks. You're taking a risk every time you put something in your mouth. Every time you eat something, you run the risk of choking, getting food poisoning, gaining weight. Every time you go take a swim, you run the risk of drowning. Every time you get in a car, you run the risk of dying. Anything at any point in time could happen with a whole bunch of things that we do that we don't even think about. We sit back and we just do things and we don't think about the consequences. It's natural. You've done it so much, it equals what? That D word, discipline. You're in a rhythm. You're in a pattern. You know, odds are when you get in your car and drive to your destination, odds are in your favor. You most likely are not going to die. But check the statistics of people who die in car deaths every single day. Odds are you could die. Somebody has to make up those numbers. Each day when the sun comes up, somebody has to pay the price. When we look at that statistic and we see, oh, this many people on average die per day. Somebody has to fill up those numbers. Now, if you was to ask those people before they got in their car, was they taking a risk before they got in that car? Do you honestly believe that the answer would be, yes, I'm taking a huge risk? No. They're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? You're saying I should stay at home because there's a chance that I might die today in my car? I have places to be. I need to go. I have obligations. I have purpose. I'm going to a place that's going to make me happy. I'm getting away from a place that's making me upset. I'm getting away from a person that's toxic. I got to get in that car. I have to drive. So if you have to do it, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to stand at the car door with your keys and make a life-changing decision every single time you get in your car? You go in for some groceries and you come back out and you have to basically get on your hands and knees and pray to whatever God you believe in, or meditate before you get in the car, get some sage out and run around the car. No. We trust the process. We trust and we accept the consequences of getting in that car. And think about the passengers. We're just talking about the people who are driving the car. You have even less control if you're a passenger. We take risks every single day. Every single day. So why is it when someone says, hey, it's not a risk to drive that car, but it's a risk for you to change your career. It's a risk for you to leave that relationship or enter that relationship. It's a risk for you to leave that church, to go to this school, to spend your money on that, to pick up this hobby. Who gets to determine whether or not those are risks for each individual? How does that even compute when we have already established that the biggest risks in life we do every day without even thinking about it? Why? Because it's part of our purpose. We have to get in the car because how are we going to support our family if we don't drive to our jobs? If we don't get up and if you don't drive, get on the bus and drive somewhere. You can get hit by the bus that you're trying to get on in the morning. The train could derail. The plane can drop from the sky. We're taking risks all the time. We're taking risks all the time. If you're a smoker, you're taking a risk every time you smoke one. If you're a person who is doing things on a dangerous job, If you're a police officer, if you're a fireman, you're literally signing up for risk. So how do we deal with this? Do we add in the level of stress and anxiety? Is that part of the equation? Do we say that the risk is higher the more stress that it causes you? Then we can identify as risk, because the consequences are going to have a revolving door of anxiety, depression, stress, lack of confidence, limited beliefs, triggers, things that make up a human being in a state of stress equals, a lot of people would say that it comes from bad decision making. Like, you got to the point where you're making these risks because you have already made bad decisions and you're not dealing with those properly. So where's the start line? How far back do we roll the carpet to start our process of the journey? So if we're gonna make up the construct of what a risk actually is in our lives, we have to have boundaries and rules and lack of limitations, or maybe an excess of limitations. Meaning, what does it mean? Are we boxed in by risk? Are we saying we can only have so many risks in our lives? Is it the number? Is it quantity? Is it quality? What is it? And the reason why I bring all this up is because I know that we as human beings fail to look at our actions every day and really acknowledge what they really mean. People who say they're not disciplined, that's not true. Every person on this planet, from the day you're born, you're disciplined about something. So we can't take the blanket statement of saying people, or you or I or anyone, isn't disciplined if you're doing something in routine every single day and you're doing it without even thinking about it. That's what discipline is. You're committed to the process, to the routine, to the pattern. So let's say you wake up every day and your routine is what it is. Whatever your routine is in the morning, you're disciplined about that. Someone else sees your routine, they say, okay, you're drinking too much coffee, you're taking a risk. Someone's critiquing your morning routine, but you're disciplined about something someone says you're taking a risk about. What does that mean? These are things I believe people don't think about enough. We are very disciplined. I think human beings are inherently disciplined beings. We're a disciplined species. We like order. We don't like when things are out of order. Now, that is subjective and objective at the same time, because people as a whole, if you're in a community, there's unwritten rules in the community and there's written rules in the community of where you live, what state you live, what county. We all seem like we know what to do and what not to do, but nobody's out screaming it, walking down the street saying, hey, these are the rules we live by and these are unwritten rules and these are the written rules. And no, everybody just does it. Isn't that a form of discipline? You've been disciplined about your living conditions within that county, within that state, within your household. There's levels to it. And there's levels to risk. A leap of faith is a risk. It's just a fancy way of saying a risk. So let's take the word risk out of the equation. Let's start putting in a leap of faith. Suddenly everything sounds a little differently, doesn't it? You walk up to your car. I'm going to take a risk and drive 50 miles to my destination. That's one way of saying it. Then you walk up. The next person walks up. I'm going to take a leap of faith and I'm going to drive to my destination. Which one of those sounds better? I'm going to take a risk and drive 50 miles to my location. I'm going to take a leap of faith and drive 50 miles to my location. Which one sounds better? I would think that most people would look at the leap of faith as a positive way of saying the exact same thing. There is no difference in those statements. They both mean the exact same thing. What do they mean? They branch off of the word trust. And then if trust is 1A would be hope. You're taking both. Again, subjective and objective. You're taking a risk and you're taking a leap of faith. It's the same thing. Different context. Different ways of saying the exact same thing. Point being, whatever it is in life that we do, we're always taking a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith every single time you do anything. You don't know how it's going to turn out. The most simplest thing can turn out to be a complete disaster. You get your phone out, you absolutely drop it and break it. Was it a risk for you to reach for your phone in that moment? If you had known you were going to drop your phone and break it before you did it, would you reach for it the same way, or would you change the way you do it? People would say I would change it, right? Because you don't want your phone to break. But you're not in control over it. So how is it a risk if you're not even in control over your actions in the moment to begin with? You don't know what's going to happen. So we can't predetermine anything. So is it really that bad of a risk if you don't even know what the outcome is going to be? That's what scares people about risking it all. They attach another word to it. It's a gamble. It's a roll of the dice. You're playing a Russian roulette with your bullshit. And technically there is no difference there. You don't know the outcome. You don't know the outcome of anything. When you start to cook a meal, you don't know if the outcome is going to happen. You don't know what outcome is going to happen. Anything could happen. You could be distracted and burn your meal. It happens very quickly. This is all a way of saying all we can do as human beings is surrender to who we are in the moment and make the best decisions possible based on who we are, who we become, and who we will be, and who we believe we will be. Again, those words, trust, hope. They're powerful when it comes to decision making, when it comes to projecting the consequences, because we are human. We have an idea of what could happen, but we don't always just state them out loud. Again, you walk up to your car and you say, I'm going to take a risk here and drive 50 miles. I'm going to take a leap of faith and drive 50 miles. You're not going to walk up to the car and say that. You're just going to get in the car and go. Why? Because you have to. You want to. You need to. You feel that is what you're supposed to be doing. And you can't see yourself doing anything else in that moment. It's no different than any other decision you make in your life about life-changing things. So why I don't believe judging people is a healthy practice. You don't know what people are going through when they make their decisions. A difficult decision to you, to them, feels just as easy and as natural as getting in a car and going to a destination you can't see yourself not doing. There's obligation there, there's priority there, there's purpose there, there's peace and there's joy and happiness. Internally, they may not be displaying it visually, but internally we are going through all kinds of things that on the outside other people cannot see. You can't look at someone and say he's about to take a risk. He's about to take a leap of faith. She's full of trust and hope in herself, and she's about to do something powerful. We don't do that. You have people that think they know everything. They look at you and they'll size you up and say, I know this, this, and this about you. And if that person is able to do that, I would say you need to be spreading all that knowledge of how you can just examine levels and levels and levels of deepness that goes into people when it comes to their soul. You can't determine what someone has inside of them, in their soul, in their heart, just by looking at them externally. There's a story there. There's a life there. There's a heartbeat. There's attachments. I always say to people, if you want to look at taking a risk, if you really want to define that, I believe taking a risk is not doing enough. Not doing anything, to me, is the ultimate risk-taking factor, where you can determine it and say you are taking a big risk by not doing something. Not so much of what you do in life, because we're doing all kinds of things. So it's not so much a risk. I look at risk at, what are you not doing? It's a risk for you to eat more than you should. It's a risk for you to unnecessarily damage your body when you don't have to by doing unhealthy things. It's a risk for you to not get out of a relationship that is bad for you. It's a risk to be in a career that doesn't bring you joy just because it brings you a fat paycheck. Those are risks because they have long-term ramifications that build and build and build. And you already know what the outcome is, because in the moment, you are already miserable. You're miserable now. Whatever it is you're doing now that you're miserable with, it's not going to get easier or lighter or better or happier in the future. So it's a risk for you to stay in the moment in unhappiness. That's the difference between a risk and a leap of faith, in my opinion. If you really want to break it down, if there is a difference, it's not a leap of faith not to do something. You don't even classify it that way. It's hard to even put your mind around somebody saying, I'm going to take a leap of faith and not do this. Not that it's possible, obviously. But we always look at it as a leap of faith is doing something, right? The action is progressive. It's moving forward. It's ascension. Where if you say, I'm going to take a leap of faith and not do this, people will look at it in a way like, okay, why? And then it's, to me, it can kind of look like a risk at that point. Even though, again, a leap of faith and risk are basically the same thing. You're still taking a gamble, right? 50-50. You don't know how it's going to go. But that's why the word trust is so powerful. That's why, as human beings, trusting ourselves is the most powerful thing that we can do for ourselves outside of just establishing and growing and creating self-love for ourselves and living in that and defining ourselves and giving ourselves value and purpose through who we are. Because that's really all that we need. The better we understand ourselves, we don't have to use words like leap of faith and risk all that often. I know the more I learn about myself, the more I feel like I'm taking any risk or doing any type of leap of faith. I feel like I know myself and this is just who I am. So the goal is, how can I get to a point in my life where I don't feel like I'm risking or taking leaps of faith with anything? Because I'm already in tune and aligned with who I am, what I need to do, who's in my life, who am I surrounded by, where am I going to go? I can see these things. I can create these things. I know what I have to do. There's no need to risk anything if you are happy and content in the joy and peace of the person that you are in. Now, contentment doesn't mean stand in stasis either, or accept some kind of chaotic flux in your life where you just, chaos is just fluctuating in and out of your life in like a circadian rhythm. Just every single day, you just these ups and downs and ups and downs. We talk about this all the time. Those are people who are more aligned with, if things are going right for me, when are things going to go bad? They're kind of addicted to the cycle of ups and downs, where the goal is just to balance out and level out. The goal is to get to a place where you're content with who you are, but you're not content with so much of what your life is. You want more. You want to keep growing. You want to keep learning. You want to keep exploring and experiencing and adventuring in life. You don't want to become that utopian tree standing on the top of the hill, looking beautiful, and then somebody comes up with an axe and says, that's a beautiful tree, and it's cold out in my cabin. I need to cut this tree down. They cut you down, chop you up into little blocks, put you in your fireplace, and burn you alive because you just stood in place for far too long. You look great. It was a great spot. But eventually, something's going to happen. Lightning's going to strike and cut you in half. The woodsman's going to come and cut you down. Something's going to happen. You want to keep moving. The risk is standing still. The leap of faith is to keep moving. The leap of faith is trusting yourself. The leap of faith is surrendering to your hope There's nothing wrong with having hope. I think that hope sometimes does need to have a cap on certain things, because you don't want to get to the point where you're hoping and wishing all the time and you're not doing anything. Hope has to eventually, hope is a guideline. It's a marker. It's a checkpoint. It's a place that you need to get to. I say, plant your flags of hope in front of you. Visualize there are flags in front of you that you need to get to, and you get to them and you move on to the next one. Hope is not a place where you stop and stand still like the utopian tree. Hope is a place where you meet a threshold and say, wow, I made it here. Keep moving. Let's see what else I can do. Let's see what else I know I can do. It's called belief in yourself. And it's not a risk. You're not risking anything in life if you know who you are. You never will risk anything in your life when you know what you can do, when you know what your purpose is, when you're trusting the process, when you're free of drama, when you're facing your fears, when you're accepting your losses and learning from them, when you're laughing every day, you're learning every day, and you're leveling up every single day, when you're enjoying life and you're accepting peace, when you're balancing your mind and your heart and your body and your soul. The risk is to not be all of those things. Anything that takes you away from any of that, that's the risk. A leap of faith is surrendering to all of that stuff and accepting it as who you are, despite what other people may say about you. The power you have comes from the fact that you know who you are. The strength that you have comes from the fact that you don't have to have people tell you, do this, do that. You already know what to do. You're going to need help along the way. Praise is great and good. But at the end of the day, when you lay your head down on your pillow, you know everything that you did that day, and no one is responsible for any of it except you. The choices you made that day is what's going to give you peace when you close your eyes at night, or not. And when you open your eyes, you're going to be taking risks from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. We don't focus on that. We focus on our purpose. The purpose outweighs the risk. Your purpose in life outweighs any risk. You don't need to take a leap of faith every single day about every single thing. That's only going to bring you stress and anxiety. We don't need risk. We don't need leap of faith. We need purpose. We need empowerment. We need to know what we can do. We need self-confidence and self-love and self-discipline, self-respect for ourselves. That is what's going to get you to a place where risk and a leap of faith is completely irrelevant in your life. You need them only when you need them. You don't need a new car every day. You don't need risk every day. You don't need a new house every day. You don't need a leap of faith every day. They're not stuff that should be in your life every single day. What should be in your life every single day is discipline to your purpose, to yourself, to your obligations and your priorities in life, to continuing to grow your strength, to empower yourself with knowledge, to stay in tune with your soul and understand what your emotions feel in your heart, where you're going wrong, self-analysis, after-action reports. What can you do better each day? These are things you need to focus on. Not whether or not if you do A, B, and C, D, E, and F are going to come as a result in a negative way because you're taking a risk with everything. Because you're randomly in chaos doing all these things that add up to absolutely nothing. That mean absolutely nothing. We know what it feels like to do something and you get nothing out of it. What a waste. Would you classify that as a risk if you're doing it over and over and over again? When you're in the discipline aspect of your life in the wrong direction, in the wrong way. where you're doing stuff every single day and you know it's not doing you any good. Is that not considered a risk? You're risking a lot in life if you're doing something every single day that is bringing you no joy, no peace, and no happiness, no clarity. That's not to say we don't have ups and downs. We do. We always will. Those ups and downs can be balanced quicker and faster if you know who you are and you know how to get back to a place of center, to get out of the chaotic flux, to not become that utopian tree, to know what to do when that big boulder comes out of the sky and hits you in the back of the head. That is what's going to bring you a place where you can get up and go through your day, be disciplined, experience new things, and have a smile on your face. Because life is about exploring all different aspects of your life. Our bodies and our minds are here for a reason. They're built a certain way for a reason, and we should utilize every aspect of who we are. Not just the pieces of us that makes us comfortable, because we're afraid of change. Fear is going to be there in your life regardless. You're always going to be afraid of something. I notice when there's a fear that I overcome, another aspect of my life is opened up and I have to deal with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's what I want. I want to close certain chapters in my life and say, I got that. That was an experience. I learned from it. What's the next one? Keep them coming. Why? Because that's how you build strength. That's how you grow confidence and knowledge, by experiencing new things. And if you're stuck in one thing, in one door, one room, you just can't get past it, man, you're boxing yourself in. That's why the phrase says, think outside the box. You have to expand. You have to come to closure with certain things in your life and just move on. The risk is just standing there. The risk is just being that utopian tree. That's the risk. The leap of faith is trusting yourself that you can get past that door, that room, that box. That is what life is about. Overcoming. Moving on. Learning from something. Gaining the knowledge. Bringing it in. Making it a part of you. Making it a part of your self-love and your self-discipline, your self-respect. And turning around and says, okay, just because that happened, that doesn't mean the rest of my life is great. I have to turn around and face something else. There's always going to be something else. You are aging and growing, whether you like it or not. But the direction that you grow in is completely up to you. It's called awareness and clarity. If you're aware that you can make yourself better and you're not doing it, that's the biggest risk in your life you could ever take. It's the most impactful thing you could ignore, is who you are and what you can do. You put a big giant red X on your hope, a big giant red X on your discipline, on your self-love, on your trust, and you're just carrying around a big bag of limited beliefs, lack of confidence, lack of self-respect, lack of purpose. You will gain no joy out of that. But we're better than that. We know what we have to do. And the leap of faith is believing in ourselves. Once you get over that threshold and you believe in yourself, there are no risks in life. Your mission for today is to examine your life. You can either write this down or you can just do a mental exercise. What are the things you believe you do every single day in the form of discipline that you would attach the word risk to? What are the things in your life in forms of discipline that you would attach the word risk to, or lack thereof? What are you doing that you know it's risky for you to keep doing it, or not do it? Is it risk involved when you're not doing something that you know you should be doing? What are the things that you could say to yourself, I'm taking a very big risk by not doing this. I'm taking a big risk by doing this. And then ask yourself, what does it mean in your life? Does that risk actually mean a risk? Or are you ready to take the leap of faith and change whatever you believe that risk is? Again, no one can tell you what you're coming up with is a risk. Only you can tell yourself that. Only you know if it's a risk, or you can look at it and spin it in a positive way and say it's a leap of faith that you're doing something. Which one is it? And is it time to change something in your life? If there are things you're identifying, what can you do to change those things? How do we turn those risks into non-existent factors in your life by overcoming them and closing those doors? Ask yourself those hard questions. What are the things in your life that you need to take a leap of faith on and maybe course correct to get rid of the risk? What are the things in your life that you can just say, if I had it my way, I wouldn't have to take any more leaps of faith, any more risks. I know exactly what I need to do. What are those things? Find them. They're yours. This is your day. You are here now. These are your moments. You own them. You are brave, bold, powerful. You do believe in yourself. You know you have more in the tank. You know the glass is half full. There's still more room for improvement. There is no end. Believe, believe, believe in yourself. Trust yourself. Trust that you can do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever you want from life. You don't procrastinate. You don't embellish. You don't lie. You are true to yourself. Knowledge is in your mind. Peace is in your heart. Balance is in your body. Purpose is in your soul. You are greatness. The sky is not the limit. You have purpose, fulfilling, intentful purpose. You are here for a reason. You are unique. You are self-love, self-discipline, self-respect, self-control. You have self-awareness. You are joy, peace, happiness. You are freedom. And yet you are connected to every person, place, and thing in the universe. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Learn, laugh, and level up.